Here in the towns. Just about a few minutes ago, I heard a high-pitched tone, and I want to talk to people about the nature of what it is to do this work from a place of fear versus I am all that and more. That's the nature of who I am. I have to tell you that what I'm seeing in the world is not the reality of who we are on other planes of awareness. And so, with that in mind, I do want to honor all the souls that are in struggle mode, whether they actually are or not. You see, many of us place ourselves in those places and times in which others are suffering. And then we take that on and then we create havoc. I am part of that process. I was told that my own hearing is being affected in one ear. It is an energy work that I deal with within my own soul. And a lot of that has to do with just a lot of the grief and whatnot that I've had over various things that have happened over the week. But I want to tell you that it's not meant to tear us apart. These situations that it's like we fall into and out of the world issues. And that's what's happening. Many people are starting to disconnect from the world, thinking that's going to solve all of the problems. It's not going to solve the problems. What we have to do is to align ourselves with those who understand that the 9 out of 10 on a Richter scale that I hear for some states has nothing to do with an actual earthquake. What it is, it can be a level of destruction that is going to show up. Now, many will say that psychic vision is less than. We're going to talk about that. What I do is not actually psychic. It is not about taking out other people's visions and saying there's something bad. We're all beautiful in whatever talents, abilities, and gifts that we embody, and we can do so from other fields of enlightenment. So what I'm trying to say is anyone who ever has a gift and has thought, oh my gosh, I need to protect myself, that is you now drawing those energies into you, right? Oh, but I've created a beautiful place of protection for myself. What you've traditionally done in this view is you have now inhibited the beauty of all from being able to express, because in your mind you've created a place where there are bad for you. Now, what does that say to some people? This is why I rise out of the victim mindset of my energy is being attacked. That is your soul giving you the information saying there is something not quite right with where you are in your own heart or your mind, right? It's your mind, it's not your heart. So this is not about saying that anything is bad. And a lot of people who I know are very much in I have to have boundaries. And that's the nature of why we keep creating boundaries wherever we go, right? We have boundaries, healthy boundaries. Of course, there's boundaries in what? The way that we treat each other? Sure, this is a boundary, an emotional boundary that we put down. So we're protecting ourselves from who they are here versus the higher level understanding of where do we vibrate when we think we need protection. That's the strength of all. No one, and I mean no one, is going to sit there and say to themselves, if I come from this place of I'm going to protect myself from others on this plane, we are projecting that on all in other realms as well. We don't need to necessarily give ourselves like a break, right? How many people want to know what that feels like to have your energy zapped? If you're a channel, you're going to have that vision handed to you sometimes, depending on where you vibrate. Other times, what you're going to do is you're going to have, it's like the field of vision of dreams. How many people say, let me go protect my dreams now? Because that's where the reality of where we reside in most planes, it's like shown to us when we do that vision. How many people say, oh, I'm going to go protect myself in my dreams? Versus I'm going to allow myself the beauty of expression wherever I ride or I walk, right? These planes that we claim are bad are our own visions coming true, our own visions of what we're afraid of, escaping from, or feeling like we're better than. And that's the division that we also see coming out on the screens of news. Okay? This idea that we are somehow separate from everybody else it's a field of vision within the spiritual enlightenment camps, right? It doesn't mean we have to take on their vision as they are here. But if you do work with higher level understanding outside of the field of who I think they are or who their vision is, can you imagine not feeling anything other than love? Because in essence, that's what happens when they rise. And we've already come to this place. There's so many people that assume that we're dealing with lower level information. Can you imagine being able to tell a person, your higher self is of the highest? We just don't know it yet. How many people know that? How many people assume that they are just here and that's it? That's part of it. But is it true? Do you know how many people I know that don't even believe in what I do, and I can bring through information about their whole entire career and their lives? What does that tell you? Am I tapping into the nature of who they are here? Sometimes I get their family tree information as well, handed to them. And it's validation that there is more going on than what we even believe we think we know here. Because that's really what it is. A lot of what we create is what we're seeing. And we want to honor people who are saying, this is not exactly the best, place to do this vision. Right? Like we are in the middle of a war, correct? Not exactly. Depending on where you live. Do we have weapons of war being utilized? That means we're part of it. Of course, it's all of us. But are we, utilizing those visions as destruction? That's the nature of looking into the videos and asking ourselves, are we supplying weapons against Putin? This is one of those soul visions. Okay, because I heard the tones. People are getting mad because they don't want to take responsibility for who they are in their minds, right? If I go on and I watch TV, am I planting a field of destruction for all the Russian people who are still suffering? Okay, that's what we've talked about, and we want to acknowledge that's part of the process for some of their souls. Do you want to know what that does for many? To know that there's a higher level of understanding for all of those souls who are either crossing over into another field of vision, other realms of love, or for the loved ones here who are taking part in it and want to be acknowledged. I want to take, I want to take part in a war is where a lot of the Ukrainian people are saying they do not, right? How many of them are saying we are staying and we are fighting? So in essence, had they just rolled over, right, it would have been the end of war, but they would have been an occupied country, enveloped in the mindset of Putin. Now, how do we unwind this? Do we unwind the idea of what is war right here, right now? Or what is it that's actually going on for me to be, as Brenda, to hear the tones? It's an acknowledgement that she herself often has to deal with it's like the crisis souls that she inhibits. She inhibits a lot of those crisis souls from coming through because in essence, she's been hearing about them for weeks. And what that means is that when you go through this process yourself, for whoever is listening or watching this later, I want you to really, really, really focus on writing down those ideas that just pop into your head. Because a lot of times those are those initial visions of, connection with your own heart. Whatever that vision is that you want to place of higher, write those down. They start to come true. This is the spiritual enlightenment, right? It could be of prayer. It could be of anything, but what we want people to understand is that there's no better than in essence. It's just how you decide to live your life. Do you live your life in integrity? Do you live your life, live in each moment to the fullest? That's what a lot of those lessons are. When we have these crisis situations that pop us for us in this vision, I got my hat handed to me by several people saying, I don't believe you because I don't look to the future. I stay in the present moment. Do you want to know what happens when people only stay in the present? What if their present isn't that great? Okay, so how many people say, I need a better vision to aim for? Guess who can give you that vision of a better future? Is it limiting? It may or may not be, depending on what your soul actually thinks you can attain based on where you are in this moment. Some people would say, but my highest vision is I get to go and I get to create this company that's going to land me $1 million deal. Are you still riding on that vision? Are you still doing the work that's needed to do that vision? Are you still having those sessions with people that can plant the seeds of love for all? That's the difference between my guidance versus I'm going to tell people how to protect themselves from others. Okay, because what we do is, in essence, of course, on this plane of understanding, there are many situations where our own intuition will say this isn't, the best place for me. But in our own defense, what I want to tell people is I have had my issues with fear, but I have to have that issue in order to work through it. So if I'm constantly telling people I'm working against fear versus I'm clearing it out of the collective for everybody, that's what we're supposed to be doing so we can move on to those higher levels of understanding. It's not just about me, right? Who am I afraid of and why? Do I have the tools, tips, and techniques to keep myself grounded in this realm? Do I have the wisdom to tell people how to be? So this is not saying that just because this is what I do, that everyone needs to do that. But when you start playing the game of life and you start realizing my fears keep showing up in various ways or in patterns that I play out with others. What are those fears? It's like the fear of domination is what the Ukraine is working with. We don't want to be dominated. Okay, so what do you think starts to build upon in that vision? We're going to start to see it. And that's what's starting to come through. The domination of other souls. Right? That idea, I'm better than, I can do this work. I want to acknowledge people who are saying to themselves, I can do a better job. If you can do a better job guiding others to their own souls, that's beautiful. What most people are saying is, we're here to do the work ourselves. How many people know that there is so much garbage that we have to unload first, or we have to sit there and go in and love ourselves to death, right? Some people will say they love themselves to death, but it's not meant as in the physical death. It's literally the rebirthing of souls, or the rebirthing of our mindsets is really where it is. A lot of people will open up their minds to various tools, tips, tricks, and, genius vision in order to get themselves to that place of, now I understand how to work the magic of my life. What is not said is that some people are here to work the magic for others. That's a whole different ball game. And that's where some of those ideas about I need protection very much come in for many people. And the idea is that then they have determined for themselves that they are outside of the vision of fear. I just don't allow myself to vibrate in the vision of ghost. You see, that's the nature. Most people are saying to themselves, I'm fearing for my life. What are they going to do to you? Now, if you vibrate in a vision of violence in your mind, you might start to get some of those visions handed to you from various realms of understanding. But how many people truly go into this idea of I'm going to be a guide, and they're still vibrating in the vision of I'm violent in my mind? Okay. Now, if you are a person who are, looking to open up to your own nature, does violence always mean bad? I can unwind what a revolution is, where others will say it's good, others will say it's bad. Most people aren't in the realm of I'm a revolutionary. They're reacting. They're not doing this on a higher level of understanding. And that's where a lot of this guidance comes from. But what has to happen is that we have to allow the fears in our lives in order to work through them. I got told I was chicken shit by one of my guides because I felt the fear start to come in. And then I was like, I don't want to feel it. See, so when we shove down the fear or we try to do all these protection spells and all of that, what do you think we create? More of the same, and it comes back harder often. So for me, in my mind, I was like, oh my gosh, I just need to admit when I'm in fear. And what does that feel like for me? Sometimes it's actually incredibly strong. Okay, I've dealt with some like terrorists on this realm from a soul level. Terrorist, actual terrorist that were terrorists here on the soul level. And there was nothing wrong. Why do you think that might be? Because I don't bullshit people when I tell them I'm not afraid of any soul, because I understand that we don't just vibrate in one realm. So if we are putting out these visions that somehow people need to be afraid of who they are or who they think they are, then we need to allow ourselves to vibrate out of it. Okay, now this isn't one of those messages of love. It's about understanding that it's very hard to get out of the idea of, I have fears, but I'm not going to risk my life. That's something different versus I'm fearful of making certain choices in my life, or I'm fearful of a guide, or I'm fearful of my future. I can guarantee you there are paths open for every single soul that is beautiful, and it's like friendly family and friends. So like I have family and friends that I've been dealing with on a soul level who I used to be afraid of at one point, not because of who they were here, but because of the insistence of messages. There's a difference between those who vibrate in the vision of, I am a medium, and so I'm attracting levels of information, versus I'm dealing with my own higher self, and that self is able to communicate with those higher visions of who they are. We're not labeled as bad here, so I don't know why everyone would think that everyone's bad on the other side of the veil. Others will say, I've seen and experienced these horrific things. Granted, they are there. What we have to understand is, why am I vibrating in that? And often it can be the tricks that we play in our minds about the movies and the shows that keep reinforcing those thoughts in. I knew better, and it's like I said, no, I'm not going to watch that, because I already knew I was connected to guidance, and I knew I don't want to reinforce those ideas of I'm scared of the future. The future for these are not about scaring people. It's about letting us know where we are and what may be coming through. And then there's a reason, because at some point what happens is we get to unpack or unwind how we created what we did. That can also be part of your own lesson on how to give guidance or how to receive guidance. So some people will say, but what if my future is already pretty good? Do I need to go and have a session, or do I need to just listen? Am I going to get those visions of love from my family and friends? I have family and friends that I want to acknowledge, and I want to say, yes, I know more than what most people do about the situation that's unfolding in our own life. Okay, and I have for a long time, not in the way that most people think. I cannot take responsibility for any of those visions of loved ones at this point. I was in my own mastery of the material is where I was. I used to use a lot of conditioning tools to help lift me up. That's why I don't degrade the Bible or anything like that. I don't use that vision, but I want people to know it's honored for what it is and for who it lifts up. And I was on that path for many people, saying that this is about the Ukraine. It's not just about the Ukraine. It's about the love and adoration of our souls that come through for all of us. And they will never, ever have to sit there and think that there is something to be afraid of. If someone is ever afraid that they're getting signals, that's a beautiful thing. Let's just assume it's either from loved ones or from your own higher self, your own soul that's beautiful and vibrant always. Anytime I've seen anyone on the other side of the veil, they have been vibrant. I don't know what other people are creating when they see things, but I see beauty. And that's because I rise in it. That's what I did. I intuitively knew how to handle the things. Now, I also don't visually see things, but my soul gives me images and they're beautiful. Now, because I can't speak, we create all kinds of havoc for ourselves. And I want people to understand our family's connected on a soul level. We're all connecting. We just don't know. It's really expansive in the vision of what I can do or what I could talk about. But I'm going to keep it very simple and I'm going to kind of wind it down a little bit because, this was also about an acknowledgement of the Supreme Court Justice nominee and her vision of love for all souls. We are having a lot of discord in the racial bias vision, and, there's more videos that will come out about that. It's not about labeling anybody bad or saying someone is good or bad or better than or whatnot. When we go to that higher level of guidance, it's usually a message of love, adoration for all of us, for all of our strengths, for all of our talents, abilities that are going to start kind of coming through, because the more that people watch those ideas about who am I, if I'm starting to receive signals, or I'm spiraling myself up because I'm feeling good, that's a beautiful place to be. Don't listen to a lot of the negativity, if at all possible, because it can bring you down. It can kind of work its way in your subconscious, and then those signals start to, bleed out into other realms. Okay, so I could give very specific information for people that I know that are watching. And I want you to think very carefully though about, how is my vision bad? That's what some people are afraid of, because it's like they'll go and they might go see somebody and they'll tell them, oh, there's this curse or there's this thing or whatnot. How do we deal with the news of things that is not that pleasant? Okay, that's some of those information sources that I know how to handle it, because in my mind, I've been able to deal with it for a lot of my life. I knew a lot of stuff that was coming to me, and I just have a way of working with, a lot of the energy work. That's a different story. That's one that I can honestly say is mind-blowing for most people and can be scary for some. You always go in with the vision that we are loved. I even got my own signal today from my higher self, a vision, and it was it's like a telepathic communication basically, of a memory of an artist that I used to listen to in my room by myself. No one else knows that person. As far as, in my family, no one else. And you get those messages of love handed back to you as guides when you start to feel like, oh, maybe I'm not connecting in my heart. We're always connected in our hearts. Always. We just don't know it. It's like a shift in the vibration of the universe. So what we're going to talk about is the fear of nuclear war as well. It's still on the table in many people's minds, but we are not allowing that vision to come through. Okay. There are higher level understandings, beings that know how to do the work that allows us to vibrate out of the vision of it. I don't want to plant the seed of worry for anybody. Okay. There's enough of that on the internet. What I would say is that when you hear those words, take it with a grain of salt at this point. Okay, because this was a on the fly message. So what I want to say is, I'm honoring your all your souls. Your visions are beautiful. You're always going to be considered beautiful by your soul. You would be blown away by how much gratitude that you get for the work that you guys are doing. We all do the work here, and people don't realize that living our lives is beautiful work for our hearts and our souls. All of us. Whatever you could do, whatever higher vision, if it's God, if it's whatever vision of higher, we're doing the work of love. Even if it doesn't feel like it. And that's the thing, we're expanding that vision. And so that's why so many people are afraid, because they're afraid they're going to hear like some negativity. It can get very personal. But that's the nature of trusting in the vision of my soul, my higher self, and my guides will let me know what I want to know and what I need to know. And it's not always the most pleasant. If you're in that vision of, I need to make a difficult choice, but I can't decide, that can give you some of that, like mixed guidance, right? When you hesitate and you're like, I don't know whether to do choice A or B, chances are you don't even know there's 5 other choices you could be making, believe it or not. Or what it is, it's how you're making your choices. So it might be there's 2 choices in your mind, but there could be something else that you haven't thought about that's influencing how you're making the choices, and someone else that's creating with you. So for instance, if you were, and this isn't going out to anyone right now, but if you were thinking about, oh, I need a different job and I have choice A and B, do you want to know what the management style of choice A is versus B if you're working with someone, and how that dynamic will play out? If you're looking for a pleasant experience, we can tell you one. One might be more profitable in the future. That's another way to do the work. It's not about giving you the genie experience, okay? But okay, when you align with your soul, it can almost feel like you have a genie. Okay, it can also be very, very intrusive sometimes, and I had to deal with a lot of that. So I'm not recommending everyone go the path that I went. But I will say that as a guide, I'm going to say thank you for watching. I want you all to be strong in who you are. It does not matter. You do not have to be the saviors of the world. You do not have to be the pious person who says, oh no, I don't talk the way that, Jesus did, or I don't act that way. It's not like that. There are aspects of that vision coming through. It's about us reconnecting with our own hearts and souls, and then realizing they're all guides and loved ones guiding us in these visions. These are going to be coming through very strong, because people get this feeling like, oh, I need to be a certain way in order to be, held high. It's not. I'm telling you, it's beautiful for whoever you are. So with that in mind, I want to say thank you and take care of yourselves. If you're feeling down, don't watch the negative stuff. That can be one trick. It doesn't mean forever. It means just, manage your energy levels a little bit. If you start to feel a little down when you're watching the TV, choose something else that's going to lift you up. Great music is another thing. I always recommend music for people because it's one of the best energy sources that can lift us up. Now, if you're listening to sad songs, and I'm sorry, I'm sweating, I'm hot because I'm in a hot room. Don't do that. We often reinforce the victimhood, but it could be the cathartic experience that we need. So if we're going through some, very sad times, sometimes the cathartic experience is what we need to help get that grief out of us. It's not about shoving it down. We have to feel the feelings. I know what it is. I'm going through it the last week and a half or whatnot, and it's not the easiest because we have to do the things in our daily routines and daily lives. So with that, I want to say thank you. I want to honor your souls, and I want to wish you all a wonderful, wonderful week, evening, whatever. I don't know when I'm going to come on. I never know when I'm going to hear the tones. So have a great evening. Goodbye.